All right, I really want to talk to Robin.
Ooh, yeah, let's do that.
Robin in Washington, D.C., welcome to the show. Hello, Robin, can you hear us?
Robin. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
There you go. Yeah, we can hear you just fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Excited to talk to you. What can we help you with?
Yeah, I just wanted to call and see one or both of you guys can answer this question, but I'm first just curious as to whether one or both of you classify as a hard or a soft atheist.
That seems to be the topic of the day. I honestly hate every single term that refers to these dichotomies, like hard, soft, positive, negative. Like it sounds awful, whichever way you spin it.
Well, let me, for clarity's sake, let me just make it clear.
For the audience.
Right, exactly. So like when I say hard atheism, it's just the categorical denial of all gods, and just God being that which is ultimate and the grounds for everything. Soft atheist would say something like, I'm not committal, I don't know, that can't be known. So anything on that kind of a spectrum would be considered, in my view, to be a soft atheist.
Okay, so I'm going to weasel into the middle ground there and say that for every single God that has been proposed to me as existing, I am a hard atheist, because I absolutely do not think that they exist. There may be a God somewhere out there, kind of deist universe type God that doesn't interfere with our world, and in that case, we couldn't know because there's no way to test that. It's unfalsifiable. In that sense, I am a soft atheist. But for Christian God, absolutely, I'm a hard atheist. For other gods that I have done sufficient research into, also hard atheist.
Okay, well, because I'm addressing atheists, a general definition of atheism, I think, is probably the most appropriate. So it's not specifically dealing with a God. Just a general definition of God just being that which is fundamental, ultimate, the grounds of all things.
Well, that's not the definition of God.
Yeah, if we were to have 7 Christians call in and 7 Muslims call in, how many of them are going to give that its exact definition?
Well, that's the category that all of the quote unquote monotheistic gods, all those gods would fall into that category.
Where did you get that? Where did you get that from?
A Muslim would say that. No, it's according to their own scripture. Muslims would say that God or Allah is fundamental to all things. This is not controversial. Christians would say the same thing.
Well, Robin.
Jews would say the same thing as well.
Robin, if you were an atheist saying that about other religious people, I would jump down your throat and say, hey, how dare you straw man other people, because their definitions and the way they view their God and the way that they would approach those are very different from one another. So to make broad strokes like that and claim that that is what everybody else believes is wrong. And you're not an atheist, you're a religious person. And so when I jump down your throat, I don't want you to think it's because you're a religious person. I want you to know that you should not use broad strokes like that. Say, this is what I believe, and I think everyone should believe it, and I think that this is a better way to explain it because of X, Y, and Z, and then use a convincing argument. But if you're going to come in and paint everybody
like there's one definition of God
that everybody uses.
For a moment of clarity, I didn't say everyone believed something. Okay, you can identify as a Christian and believe that God is not what is ultimate and above all things. But Christianity, for example, teaches in the Bible that God is the creator of all things.
Okay.
Islam teaches in the Quran that I'm not addressing people's opinions about things. That's not really relevant. I'm talking just about.
You realize that the entire concept of a triomni or maximally great being is the result of Greek people reading the Jewish scriptures and putting their own ideas onto it. This is all other people's ideas. None of this is contained within the Bible itself.
I didn't say anything about triomni. I said that God is ultimate and the creator of all things. I didn't say anything about
Ultimate, triomni, maximally great.
Well, hold on.
Triomni just refers to the fact that God would be omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. That's not exactly what I'm referring to.
Right. So you're saying
referring to the fact that God would be ultimate on the ground of all things.
Okay. So are we talking about ultimate the same way that I could go buy an ultimate cheeseburger from, a food cart down in Austin? Maybe we're not using ultimate the same way.
If you're not talking about maximally great, then what does ultimate mean
to you?
Well, great is just a subjective word. We can go into that. I'm just trying to deal with the general definition. When I say ultimate, maybe I didn't clearly define that. So when I say ultimate, I'm just saying that all things derive and depend upon that. So whatever ultimate, all things would derive and depend upon that thing.
Okay, so how did it derive?
What?
How did it derive? So
what's a being?
Yes. So you're
Wait,
pointing.
It's a being now?
Well, I mean.
Yeah, the entity, the being.
I
came in here asking about whether or not you believe in God. So yeah, it would be a being. Definitionally.
Okay, so let's hold on, because I know we're going to go off in a different direction if we follow this train of thought. And I want to push through and pin down on the ultimate thing, because I'm very curious. Are you talking about like a cosmological argument type of thing? A first mover, or a thing upon which everything else is dependent, right? A prime mover.
Right now, I'm not even arguing for that God actually exists. I am a theist, but I'm not arguing that God exists. I just want to have clarification onto whether or not your position is whether or not God exists.
Right.
I'm not arguing on a cosmological standpoint.
V gave it, and I agree for the most part enough to move forward in the conversation. But we're talking about ultimate, and I'm really, really curious, because when you're saying
apparently it's not a subjective claim to say something is ultimate.
But when you use ultimate, and we ask you what ultimate means, it sounds like you're using the cosmological argument. And I just want to make sure, because I don't want to straw man you. And so I'm saying, hey, Robin, here's what I think you're saying. Does that match up to what you're saying? Because we don't want to straw man you. So Robin, when you say ultimate, are you referring to something that would kind of be in line with the cosmological argument?
I'm not giving the cosmological argument, but yeah, if ultimate as defined by the cosmological argument would probably fit with what I'm saying.
Good.
But I'm not giving the cosmological argument.
Totally understood. But we're understanding definitions, which means we can have a productive conversation. I mean,
definitely.
If we understand each other, if we see each other, then we can move forward, and that's freaking awesome. Okay, so now we know what ultimate means.
So am I convinced by the cosmological argument now?
Well, he's not giving the cosmological.
He just asked in reference to the cosmological argument, just so you can understand what ultimate means.
Right, but the reason.
May I please
go for it?
Okay, so it sounds like when you're using ultimate, you're implying something. And so if I use the word ultimate, I would need to use that same implication, right? If you're saying ultimate in the sense of the cosmological argument, right? And just so people who are following, the cosmological argument is this kind of prime mover, right? There had to be a first thing that created everything else, because everything is contingent upon, something else creating it. And so there has to be kind of a backstop there. So when Robin is using ultimate, he's referring to this idea of a backstop. And so if I were to use the word ultimate, I would be saying, well, I'm totally on board with this prime mover, this backstop, to move forward. And so if we don't agree with you that there's an ultimate anything, then how can we have this conversation moving forward? How can we continue to understand each other and have a productive conversation?
Well, that's fine. That's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you if you believe that there is any ultimate at all.
Oh, okay.
And specifically that the ultimate would be a mind, right?
Well,
so you said, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that we're super clear, because you're being really, really good, and I want to. I would hate to get caught in the weeds here. A mind is an extra bit. But if we just stay with ultimate, then after that we can get to mind. So can we put mind on the shelf for now, and just stay with its kind of ultimate? It's nebulous, but it's a good starting point.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the caveat of a mind is actually very, very important when distinguishing between a theist and an atheist. But if you want to just put that to the side for the second, we can do that.
Okay.
But I would say that the main differentiation between a God and that which is not a God is that a God would be a disembodied mind as opposed to some sort of a naturalistic cause. So that's why I think it's very relevant.
So
to discuss whether or not
is the question
if you don't believe
ultimately?
anything is ultimate, then I think if you don't believe anything is ultimate at all, then I mean, mind or not mind, it wouldn't matter. Right?
Robin?
So we could put that to the side for now.
I think that the ultimate, not ultimate conversation is useless at this point. Because if you're going to ultimately go to a disembodied mind, ultimate, not ultimate, limited, can only exist in this room, the answer is no. I do not believe in a disembodied mind, ultimate or otherwise.
Okay. So why don't you? So then that gets kind of to the. Is there anything else that needs to be cleared up, by the way, before I ask a follow-up question? That's okay.
No, I think it's cleared up really well. I'd love for you to answer V really, or did you already answer V?
Yeah, I already said
Okay.
don't believe in a disembodied mind.
Okay,
What's your follow-up?
So then, as long as we're moving forward, we're understanding that we understand each other, and that when we're using this language, we need to be aware of what we've discussed so that we don't talk past each other. That's all. Go ahead. Robin, did we lose you?
No, still there. Hello, Robin. Can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, good.
Yep.
Am I good?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So just follow-up question. Why don't you believe that anything is ultimate? Or, I mean, in this case, why wouldn't, if you don't believe anything is ultimate, then that wouldn't follow that you don't believe that a God would exist. God would be definitionally ultimate.
I didn't say
So
anything.
why don't you believe?
I didn't say anything about
What do you
ultimate. I said I don't believe in a disembodied mind, ultimate or otherwise. I think ultimate is a useless term in this context if we're ultimately going to get into whether or not I can believe in a disembodied mind. That is a claim that is not falsifiable and unproven.
No, I'm saying an atheist can believe in something that's ultimate too.
Right, and I don't care.
Okay, well, if you don't believe it's a mind, you'd still be. If you don't believe in a disembodied mind, that's still relevant to whether or not God exists. Because if a disembodied mind doesn't exist and God doesn't exist, as he's been defined.
Right, exactly.
So either way, ultimate or disembodied mind, those two are necessary or essential characteristics to the definition that I posited. So then I just shift focus into the idea of a disembodied mind. Why don't you believe that that exists?
Because so far we have not been able to prove that a mind can exist outside of a physical brain. Mind is an emergent property of sufficient brain cells.
You brought something up that's important. You said you haven't proven that can be the case.
Right. We have sufficient evidence to assume that the mind is the emergent property of brain cells interacting at a complicated level. We do not have any evidence that it is anything other than that or can exist outside of a brain.
Okay. What is your standard of proof? What makes something worthy of believing, in your opinion?
Multiple corroborating. How would I put this? Multiple people who are experts in that field corroborating something independently of each other while actively incentivized to disprove it.
Okay. Is this along the lines of some sort of an empirical methodology that you're kind of referring to, or is it something different, or is it more than that?
I think that for things relating to the brain and the things that happen inside the brain, the scientific method is probably the best definition there.
Okay, I'm asking more generally. Why would you believe anything to be true as opposed to its opposite?
See, you're trying to get me back on the script, man, but I'm not talking about whether or not anything is true. I'm talking about specifically whether or not I believe the mind is true, and I gave you a reason why. So now you give me a reason why you think the opposite is true.
Well, I believe that the opposite is true because I believe that God has revealed himself, but I'm just asking why.
So wait.
The concept of.
So I have to have multiple corroborating sources to back up mine. But you get to believe your thing because you believe God revealed himself.
I'm going to give this to you and step away for just
your standard of evidence is different than mine.
Right, exactly.
I asked you about your standard of evidence for claims, not the other way around. I don't appeal to the consensus as a general. I mean, in a general sense, I guess that could be an indicator, but that's not my grounds for why I believe something to be the case. I have what is known as a revelatory epistemology, meaning that all knowledge is derived from God's revelation. But aside from that, I was just asking, when I asked you the question about evidence, I was just being more general. Maybe I didn't make that clear. So I was just I'm making a general statement about why you would believe anything to be the case, why you would accept any piece of evidence at all. And so when you said corroborating evidence, I thought that's what you meant. If anything that is worthy of belief has to have corroborating evidence. Is that your position? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Hello?
Clearly talking through your mic the whole time because my mic is not working.
Oh, no.
Yep.
I can hear you. I can hear you guys now.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Sorry about that. Apparently my mic hasn't been working this whole time, and I've been using Eric's mic, which is why I've been low. And Eric left the room, so no one could hear me anymore. So we will.
My bad.
I could hear you before. I could hear you before. I know just to cut off, but I could hear you before, Pete. So
okay.
You were fine.
I tried to quietly step away to use the restroom, and that did not work out well.
Nope. All right, so now I'm going to put this here so that we can both use it for the continuation of this show.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
That is very embarrassing. All right, so here's the deal, Robin. I think that you like to go broad and you like to go general because that is where you're comfortable playing and that's where you can play your word games. I am not talking about how I know anything at all. That's not a concern for you right now, unless that's why you called in ultimately. What we're talking about specifically right here is how I know that why I believe that a mind cannot live outside of a brain. And that's all, right? We're not getting into solipsism unless we want to talk specifically about that. But I think that we should talk more time about the standards of evidence we both have for beliefs that we believe.
Right. So I made it clear that my standard of evidence, my epistemology, I have what is known as revelatory epistemology, meaning that what constitutes good evidence to me, what makes something worthy of belief, is if God has revealed it.
How do you know if God has revealed it?
I'm just asking. What?
How do you know if God has revealed something to you?
God's revelation. That's the basis of my epistemology. So anything
you know that you know that you know that you know, huh? That's your evidence.
No, I didn't phrase it that way.
No, you didn't phrase it that way, but that's what I'm hearing. So can you clarify? How do you know if God reveals something to you?
The same way I know anything else, which is God's revelation. You understand that epistemology is a theory of knowledge, right? So when you ask me how I know something, right? When I say I have a revelatory epistemology, that should answer the question.
I want to know what revelatory means.
Epistemology. What do you say?
It's really bad.
I'm not sure.
I don't want to know what epistemology means. I know what epistemology means. What I don't know is what revelatory means. So explain that part without saying, I know that I know that I know.
Okay. Revelatory or revelation is just anything that indicates God or God's communication. So revelation is just God's communication from his mind to our mind. Okay, so that can take many different forms. For example, there's special revelation, which is God's direct communication to various individuals. The Bible would be an example of special revelation because it's the recorded word of different prophecies of Jesus talking to disciples. That will be considered special revelation under that definition. General revelation would be, for example, everything that God has created. So that would be you, me, the device that we're speaking on, the microphone, anything that God has created or God has ultimately caused.
Well, if God created this microphone, I'm going to have words because it's shit. Okay, so it sounds like you really don't have a good definition for this. Again, you're going very broad and very general. You're saying everything in the world is revelation. Therefore, how on earth can you determine whether or not something is revelation if everything is? What if I said that through revelatory epistemology, God revealed to me that a disembodied mind doesn't exist?
Well, I think you mischaracterized what I said. First of all, I was being very specific. But you asked me a question of what revelation is, right? So that's a very general question, and that has multiple different parts. There's not going to be a simple answer to that question. So I did try to break it down into two different categories so that we have an idea of what types of revelation. And in certain instances, right, I would defer to special revelation for certain types of knowledge as opposed to general revelation. So, for example, the Bible has a lot of different doctrinal truths, right, that I wouldn't find necessarily I wouldn't find directly in general revelation as it's been defined.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm finding very little of use in this definition. That could be me. That could be you. I think we should have this conversation continued next week or the week after if you want to call back, and we can talk more about what constitutes revelation and what doesn't. Because if everything is revelation of some form, then nothing is not revelation, and therefore you can't determine what revelation is in the first place. It's like, and the fish are like, what water?
Okay.
Well, definitionally, that would have to be the case. In the world where God exists, everything would necessarily be revelatory of Him, because God would be the creator of everything.
Well, Robin,
that's a topic for a different. If you want to continue that next week, we can.
Absolutely,
definitionally, I wouldn't disagree with you.
Absolutely,
that everything would necessarily be revelation.
Okay.
I want that conversation. Call back.
Can I two quick things just as homework, because I'm going to ask them next time you call back, Robin. By the way.
Yeah.
Want to heap praise upon this entire conversation for being respectful, civil, and really, really fun to listen to, except for our audio issues, which is entirely our fault. But the two things that I'm going to want to ask Robin, so you don't answer it now, but answer when you call back, is number one, how can you determine, if I say I have a revelation that you're a liar, how can we tell which one of us is telling the truth? Because only one of us could be. And then the second, I entirely forgot. So I guess that happens with the live shows, but I'll give you back to V.
All right. Thanks so much for calling in, Robin. Do call back. I think we have a lot more to talk about.
Definitely.
All right.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for picking up my call.
Absolutely. Bye.
So for presuppositionalism, which is what that was.
That was.
Can we should we give a short definition of presup for people who don't know or haven't experienced it?
Go ahead.
Okay, so presupposition, or the I forget the name, the official name of it. It starts with a P.
No, it's a tag.
Transcendental, thank you. The transcendental argument for the existence of God carries within it this very difficult circularity that says that if God exists, then God exists, essentially. So if a God exists, then that God is the source of all things. And so if you're pointing to a thing, then if that God exists, it defines itself into existence. And for people like us who don't believe, it is really unsatisfying, just because it's so circular on its face. But what Robin didn't do is Robin didn't do the thing that is so frustrating with a lot of presups, is they'll say, you cannot have knowledge, you can't know a single thing because you don't believe in a God.
Well, to be fair, I think he was going to get there if we let him.
But he didn't. And the fact that he didn't jump in there, but explored definitions of things and said, here's how you define things. Let's acknowledge how you define a thing so that we can continue the conversation. That's why I was so happy to heap on that, hey, we reached, a milestone of understanding what the other person meant when they meant ultimate, so that we can move forward. I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Now we're just passing the mic back and forth.
Honestly,
What a day.
this has been a day. But you know what? We're getting through it.